let's talk about Xterra.
Yeah,
Can't believe that we were in Maui a week ago
right.
for your third ever Xterra race and your first World Championship Xterra triathlon.
Yeah, and I'm fully hooked.
You're hooked? Yep. You're addicted. Yeah, I can tell. Your passion for off road biking has flourished over the past year, and it's really great for someone that's been cycling all his life. It's
Mhm.
very exciting to see you with this renewed joy and passion for being off the bike
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
on off the road on your bike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just playing.
flying. Yeah. How do you feel about that tri bike?
Ah, it was, even today we did a group ride, road ride, and just looking down, seeing that front tire, that skinny, tiny tire, I was like, how is this even safe?
Yeah. All right. So first, let's talk about pre-race because I think that this is really this was a very exciting opportunity for us because we're so new to this and we are complete. I say this broadly speaking, but beginners. We have a lot of questions still about this, and we're learning. We're soaking up all this information, even though I've been a triathlon coach for almost 14 years now. I've been doing this sport for just as long. You have been coaching and been an athlete all your life, but this is really different. And so we're kind of learning as we go and bringing some experience to it as well. And this race proved to be very interesting because of the weather. And so we'll talk about that. So I think the first thing is just on your way to the World Championships, how did you feel, on the flight and when we got there? What was we've been to Kona 5 times. You've been there 5 times, 4 times to race and once to watch me. How did the overall vibe and energy and just the whole experience feel to you?
Well, it was definitely a lot more laid back and chill, kind of the vibe and the expectations, and it was almost like because until the very last moment, we didn't really know if the race would even happen or not, right? And then we booked our flight tickets about 4 weeks before, so at that point we were still hoping, but anything could still happen, and so I was just I didn't really think of it as like too much, or there was absolutely no pressure, and more or less for me it was hey, it's a nice escape from a winter to a tropical island, and so I was really excited about that experience, and of course I always like to race and always like to challenge myself, so there was a little bit of that excitement too, but it didn't really hit me until we really arrived there.
No. Now, I had been looking at the weather and I had been communicating with you that there was a big chance for rain, and the rain chance kind of moved different days. And we only had experience watching videos and reading forums and just other people that we knew. But the overall consensus is that if it rains there, it's going to be very muddy.
Yeah.
And so prior to the race, did you change anything, before we left for Maui to set yourself up for the potential for muddy conditions?
Yeah, so from the like you said, from watching some of the videos and reading about a course, I knew that it can get pretty muddy if it rains there for a few days. So I did change the tires from the tires that I had on. I had a tires which were more of the like a fast rolling for the dry pack courses, which they've been great until then. But I wanted to get something that would potentially have a better grip, but still be light and fast, and get rolling resistance. So I got a new specialized fast track tires, which I did have the original model of the fast trucks when I bought that bike, and I like those tires, but the new ones are better. It's a little bit more spaced up, and so it can clear any kind of debris from the tire, and they're actually a little bit lighter. So I was excited about those tires, and I felt pretty good about that choice.
Yeah. So then when we got there on Monday evening, we were both excited to get out and do some exercising after a long day of travel to Maui. I went for a run, mostly on the pavement, and just walked a little on the trail because I didn't have my trail shoes on that day. And then you went out on the bike course. And how was the bike course that day after it rained all day on Monday night?
Yeah. So the first moment I hit the trail. So I was not sure, where to go at that point. I didn't really, know the layout of the course and everything. But after asking a few people, I just went and it just kind of merged on the trail, and it ended up being that last off-road segment before we would start the second loop or before the transition, and so it was mostly downhill. As soon as I went from the pavement to the trail, I almost wiped out the first corner just because it was like sliding on the sliding on the mud, sliding on the ice. I was like, whoa, that's different. And then I realized like, I can't really lean into any of these turns, and it's totally like a control slide or uncontrolled slide. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. And then there was a segment of the golf course, which we stay on the grass, and then starting the second loop, and the course started with this super steep uphill, which was still paved. I was like, that's pretty steep, and I was just thinking about like, wow, it's probably the steepest I've ever seen it. But then getting on the trails, I soon realized that it was just weird. It was muddy, but you can't really see that mud because it was that really sticky, like a peanut butter glue type of that mud that just kept on sticking on the wheels. And then as you go through the course, there are different parts of the course, different surface, and then there would be like a drier part, but that drier part would have some stuff from the trees that is just basically piled up on that glue that I collected before, and now you can't really see your tires, and everything was just packed up with this stuff, which basically made the bike uncontrollable. It was just sliding left and right. So that was really alarming, and I was like, okay, I need to do something with that.
Yeah. And I remember you called me when you finished your ride, and you said, your run course is going to be really hard. That was the first thing that you said to me. And then you were like, I need different tires. So then Wednesday was a very different type of day. The conditions were very different. It was a warm day. I actually ran/hiked the trail because I didn't want to wear myself out, but I also wanted to recon the course. So I just kind of jogged in the areas that I felt were safe. So that it wasn't very slippery, but just that I could ease myself into a run and then hike the steeper parts because there was a lot of pitchy sections. And it also happened to be your bike course or your run course. So I ran that. So Wednesday, prior to the ride, did you change anything again?
Yeah. So I decided that I need a true mud tires for what I experienced the day before. And originally I wanted to go, there was a bike shop, Specialized shop, which was about 15-20 minutes drive away. But then I also decided let's check out the expo. Which the expo was pretty small. It was just one bike shop type thing, and see what they have. And they did have some tires that I was satisfied with, and I decided to get these tires, which they were the Continental Mountain King and Trail King, putting the slightly bigger tire and bigger knobs on the front tire to get the traction and especially in the turns, and then the other narrower, slightly faster tire in the back, which still has the knobs that would clear the mud. And the thing with the mud tires is that it's not just about how big those knobs are, but how they are spaced up. Because you can have a big knobs, but if they are not too spaced up, it will still fill up with the mud, and the mud will not shed off. So that was what I was looking for. And so I got those tires, and the thing with the tubeless tires that you need that big push from the air, either compressor or like an air chamber to pop the tire on the rim. And of course, we didn't travel with air compressor or anything like that.
No, we bought our CO2s at the bike shop.
I asked the guys there, if I buy the tires and buy the sealant and everything, can I just use your compressor to pop it out? And the answer was simply no. And I get it, bike shops and these shops at the expo, they don't want to like lend the tools and have you do that, which I totally get it. But it was not me trying to be cheap. It's just, I
need air.
I don't want anybody else to be touching my bike. I'm very capable of doing everything myself. And in a way, it's almost like I don't want you to be stuck with my bike when you can be helping somebody else, who cannot do the work themselves. I just needed the air. But the answer was simply no. I was like, okay, then the plan B was to get the bigger size CO2 cartridges, 25 grams, and I'll just use that as the push of the air, which it worked. So I changed the tires pretty quickly.
And I think you were done in like 20 minutes.
Less than that. Yeah, it was pretty quick. And then so I bought a sealant tires, CO2s, pop it on, and then I went on to ride that course. And to my surprise, it was a very different course than the day before.
With your brand new mud tires.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad. And I was actually talking to some local people. I said, yeah, when it's windy like this, like it was, and it was a little bit warmer, the course dries out really quickly. I said, tomorrow it's going to be super fast. I was like, damn it. But then again, looking at it, and I was questioning, should I go back to my original tires? But then looking at the forecast,
checking the weather every day,
I knew that there is not just a chance that it will be raining a lot the day before the race.
Yeah.
So I knew that it will get muddy again. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just stick with the choice that I have. And the reason for not wanting to go with those tires would be like, well, the other tires are a little bit faster. But then, what is really faster in the sliding condition, staying on the trail or not? And so I decided, whatever the weather will be, I will not be changing the tires again. I just leave those on.
Yeah. I will say that you do a really good job making a decision and not second guessing yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that a lot of athletes struggle with, is they'll make a decision and then they'll second guess themselves and go back and forth and never feel confident. But you do a really good job, and you even did that up until right before the start with some other gear, and you're like, that's my decision, and I'm cool with that. So then, so now moving on to Friday. So we had swam in the local pool. Public pools are free in Hawaii, or at least the ones we've been to. Mm-hmm. So that was great. We swam in the pool on Tuesday. Did you swim with anybody on Tuesday?
Yeah, I had a good session with Flora Duffy. And it was pretty solid.
Did you really swim with Flora Duffy?
Of course, she was in the same pool. She was swimming and breathing the same air, swimming in the same body of water.
But 2 lanes over, doing her own thing.
Well, that's not important. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, the Olympic gold medalist for triathlon and Xterra world champion 6 times. All right, so we swam in the pool on Tuesday, and then we swam in the ocean on Wednesday. We did a snorkeling excursion on Thursday, so we kind of counted that as open water swimming because we did a little bit of swimming there.
Nice active recovery day and super chill.
Yeah, and then Friday we swam about 20 minutes. We were swimming, and then you were going to attend the swim clinic, which we expected to be at the ocean because they were going to give some tips for open water swimming. And instead of having it at the ocean, they took you guys into the ballroom. Yeah. Perfect place for a swim clinic.
Yeah. And basically it was not really a swim clinic. It was just discussion about the swim will be most likely canceled and what we're going to do. And then, people had a chance to ask questions. And one other question was like, if some dude asked if when the swim happens, if he's able to wear a wetsuit, which they were kind of, like taken away with this because we never had this question before, and never ever in the history of this race people use a wetsuit. I mean, we are in Hawaii, we swim without a wetsuit all year long, but because the race was moved to December instead of the October time, and it was on the borderline that potentially you may wear a wetsuit. Yeah. So this dude was just all worried about a wetsuit. So that was kind of fine. But no, they actually then ended up, they talked about the waves and how it's not just how tall the waves are, but the energy in the ocean. The energy in the ocean went from the day was like 300 into like 5,000 kilojoules on the race day. And that's the energy, how the water is moving, especially the underneath currents and all that. So it was truly dangerous. But they also talk about how to navigate through those big waves and things that I didn't know before. It just kind of like was really like helpful information, and we actually practiced that after the race. When the waves were still big, but it was kind of doable. And even you as a stronger swimmer, you didn't know these things,
No.
and you struggled more than me. And then
Absolutely.
I told you those tips, and
It was
you
scary.
realize how better it was.
Well, we learned one tip from Greg Welsh when we were
Mhm.
watching one of the Ironman live coverage. I think it was South Africa or somewhere, where if you want to.
Yeah. So basically, when you're entering the water and you try to do those dolphin dives and against those breakers, the big waves that are coming, what you want to do, not just that. And I knew that you just have to like a dive underneath, but also as you dive underneath, you grab onto the sand on the bottom, and that will ensure that you will not lose your position. Because you will not be moving forward, but the wave can kind of sweep you back where you were before. So by holding on the sand, you stay in the same place. The wave goes by, you pop up, and you continue. So that was one of the tips that we learned from there. But also there were some other tips that they shared, that as you are coming back and the waves are coming behind you, you constantly need to be aware and just kind of, as you breathe, to look back. And whenever you see the big waves, the big wave that it's coming, you stop swimming, being horizontal, but you just get vertical. Let that first big wave get over you, and then you pop up on the top of that wave, and now you can use that swing and the toboggan to kind of to surf it towards the shore. If you try to stay horizontal, the wave will just swallow you.
That's what I was doing.
And tumble you underneath, and it can be very sketchy. And that's how people they break hands and necks and all that. And they also said no matter, then once you start surfing the wave, don't just do it like Superman or like one hand or head up, both hands in front, because if anything you can hurt your hands, but you keep your neck and spine safe.
Yeah, really good tips. That was great. Was Melanie McQuaid doing that swim talk, or she was just attending it?
She was just attending it, but there were some other. And there were those the Hawaiian lifeguards, and there was some Hawaiian swim coach, local swim coach, and they talk about how they navigate those waves, and also the way how in that on the beach, how the water usually moves. So if we would have to start, and so you run into the water, they said instead of just running in the water and shooting for a buoy straight up, you should start more on the right side, because the current in the bay, it's always going from right to left. So you start on the right side, and it'll kind of take you towards the buoy. If you would start straight heading towards the buoy, you would end up on the more of the left side, then you have to kind of try to swim back. So stuff like that.
Yeah. And then you went to the I went to bed early on Friday. I was just in bed getting ready for my race, and you, with one of our friends locally here in Greenville, you guys went to the welcome banquet. And at that time, you had heard that the swim was canceled.
Yeah.
So what were your emotions? Because a lot of athletes have been through that situation. It looks like it's popping up more often now that swims are getting canceled. So what was your emotion, and how did you deal with that? Because it's not what you wanted, and it's not what you had prepared for or envisioned.
And so obviously I wanted to have that full experience, especially I was really looking forward to experience the crazy rough open water swims that everybody talked about when they talked about Xterra in Hawaii.
We should also mention this is your second Xterra that you've had the swim canceled.
Yeah, but the one previous one, we knew it before we even left for the race.
Right, they had announced it. Yeah,
because it was because of the bacteria in the lake.
Yeah,
but so like I knew that for like my strength, it's better when the swim is canceled. But I still wanted to do the whole triathlon with the swim being the first, and I wanted the rough conditions, no matter how slow my time would be. Just wanted to experience it all. But as soon as I went to that swim clinic, that as I was getting into that swim clinic and thought it's going to be about swimming in the rough water, and then I realized that all the talk is about the possibility of canceling it. I knew right back then that the swim will be canceled, and I talked to our friend who was there. I was like, "Yeah, the swim will be canceled." They said that they will wait until the next day, midday, and announce it based on the condition. But I knew that the swim would be canceled, so it wasn't big of a surprise for me when I heard it at the banquet, at the dinner, and they said that they will not be waiting till the next day, midday. They just want to give at least the time to kind of like absorb this information and make a peace with it and get ready for the race. So Of course, I was bummed, but just took it as it is what it is, and now we are doing duathlon.
Yeah, and really this decision came from the lifeguards. It didn't come from Xterra. It was the lifeguards. And what we learned in what you talked about earlier is when you look, we looked at the surf forecast. And so when you look at the surf forecast, you can see that the height of the wave. So we saw, okay, so the wave is 10 feet. Okay, that's pretty high, right? But then there's also times when the energy of that wave is 300 or 400. And then there's times when the energy of the wave is 5,000. And on race day, it was predicted to be like 4,910 feet waves. So at that time, it was very dangerous, not just for the athletes, but the lifeguards can't get out there. They can't position themselves. If somebody was struggling, it would be very difficult for that lifeguard to be able to get to that athlete and help them if they needed something. And also with COVID going on, I'm sure that they didn't want to overload the hospital as well, knowing that you put athletes into this dangerous situation. So it's not just about like being able to tolerate these rough conditions, but also if somebody has an issue, are they capable of helping that athlete who has issues? And I'll say, as an experienced swimmer, when we went out there on Monday morning, just kind of playing around, and the waves were not as high as it was, probably half of what it was on race day, it was very scary for me. I wanted to get out of there. When you get further out, but dealing with those waves was
and
tough.
Actually coming back,
that's where
more dangerous than
that was
going
what was
out.
Tough. Yeah, coming back, and it was a tulip course.
And it was, it's interesting. It was the very first time in the 20 years history of the Xterra Maui that
25.
25. Oh yeah, 25.
Yep.
Yeah, and that for the first time the swim was cancelled.
Yeah. So then on Saturday, you spectated. You spent a few hours spectating me, which was very nice of you. You were out on your mountain bike, and then
I was tired.
Thank you. And then you went out and kind of rode a little bit of the course. At that time, the course wasn't muddy. It didn't rain. But then the rain came on Saturday.
It was raining hard.
Yeah. So it drizzled, I think, a little bit through the night.
No,
not
it was
at all?
swimming. I mean, it was raining
a
a
lot
lot.
on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it stopped. So then, so it may have dried up a little bit. How did you feel on race day morning? Were you nervous? Were you excited? What has been your overall feedback going into these Xterra races, because there's so much out of your control?
Yeah, so I was pretty calm. I didn't really feel the nervousness. Of course, you are a little nervous because you care and you want to perform, but overall, the vibe of the Xterra, it's so much more laid back, and it's kind of like you don't have these benchmarks that it can kind of bring the nervousness up. So let's say in the road triathlon, because of the the typical distances and typical kind of like the circumstances, you sort of know these benchmarks. You kind of know, okay, if I swim under this time, it's okay, but if I swim longer, I suck. Or on the bike, if I bike around this time frame, it's okay. If I go slower, I suck, and everybody will know it, and they can compare to, well, when I do it at XYZ. But here you don't have it.
Or PRs.
Yeah, here is just every course. Like I've done 3 Xterras, and every race was very, very different. And then not just every course. Like as an example, in this race, and we can go into a little bit more into the detail, the first loop versus second loop on the bike were like 2 different races. So yeah, I was pretty calm, just kind of ready to perform, ready to go to the bottle, but more like with my own skills. And of course, I wanted to place well, but it was just different feeling. And going through the transition and kind of looking at the different bike setups and stuff, I love bikes and I love observe, and it's just kind of it's exciting. There's nothing that can surprise me in the road transition. I mean, I know all those bikes that are pretty much the same, and here you have all kinds of different setups, and it's exciting.
Yeah. And so talk about kind of your pre-race routine and setting up the transition area and the some of the gear that you decided to use or not use.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't nothing like too deep or advanced in the transition. Just put my bike there, and I decided that I will not be doing flying mount because I didn't want to be. Since it turned into the duathlon, I decided I will wear socks for the first run, and hopefully I will keep those socks for the rest of the day. So I didn't want to just step on the wet grass field or anything to wet those socks with trying to gain a few seconds maybe in the flying mount and then losing it, whatever. So I decided I will just quickly put the shoes on in the transition and run out with that. And
you used a flask for the first run?
Yeah. So after doing the Ogden Xterra, which also turned into duathlon, I didn't use the flask for the first run there because I thought it's just short. I don't need
it's
it.
Like but 1.5 miles.
Well, almost 2 miles.
2 miles, yeah.
But then I was really thirsty because both races had a similar characteristic. The way how it starts, they both start uphill, so you do initial hard effort uphill, and I was thirsty there, so I decided that I will have a flask with me. I didn't fill it up completely, just kind of halfway through, but I did have it with me, and I was glad that I did because I could take a few sips as I went on through that first run. What I also decided to do is after that I will, I'll just use the same pair of the shoes for both runs. And I know that some athletes will be doing too, but I decided that after I finish that first run, I'll put the running shoes into the plastic bag to keep them dry from, at that time it was not raining, but they expected the rain to come.
At 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so I put them into the plastic bag, and I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah, and how about sunglasses and?
Yeah, so as I was warming up with my sunglasses on, which the glasses has a special lens that it's really suitable for like a lower visibility or being in the woods, and you can see pretty sharp. But it was just bothering me, and I knew that if the mud starts spraying on it, that it will just be in my way, and I would want to get rid of it, and that can be an issue, as you're dealing with the technicality of the course. So I decided that I will not use any glasses, and I just gave it to you.
Yeah, and then you ride with a Camelback for the bike.
Yeah. So for all the mountain bike events and the Xterra, I always use the hydration pack because for me it's so much easier to drink on the bike. So much easier to drink while I keep on handling the bike, versus if you have to grab the bottle, that means that you stop paying attention to the handling part of the bike, or you have to do it only in some segments that allow you to do it. While here I can just get it in my mouth and keep both hands on the handlebars and keep on handling while I'm sucking the water. So yeah, I use that, and I'll keep using that.
And any special warm-up routine that you did that would be different than a normal triathlon?
No, not really. I just did few like a harder strides because the race was supposed to start with the first run going straight uphill. So before the race, I wanted to make sure that I'm fully warmed up, that I don't deal with the first big lactate build in the opening of the course. So I just did a few harder uphill strides, and I felt pretty good starting the race.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the race report.